This video covers the new features of version 2026 Release 1. Here are the highlights. Our new NoSQL Bridge product gives outside access to your data through a stateless REST API. We've also added a new material design style for entry fields to match Google's design standards. We now have full Apache Maven support through a new plugin. We've added the ability to set breakpoints in the debugger even when it's not actively debugging. And there's been an upgrade to C-Tree RTG to version 5. Let's look a little closer at these and other changes in 2026R1. The NoSQL Bridge includes a Jetty servlet container, so you can start it immediately. But if you prefer other platforms, you can also deploy NoSQL Bridge as a WAR file in other servlet containers like Glassfish or Tomcat. Now, once the service is running, you'll open up an admin panel in your browser and you'll configure a catalog. Then you connect the files in the catalog to their extended file descriptions and you define the file types. And this will expose the data to REST consumers. You'll control access per consumer, either granting read-only or read-write permissions. And then the REST clients will connect by HTTP requests to access the data. NoSQL Bridge is licensed separately, so you'll need a license. You can contact your account manager for that. And there'll be a new video demonstration of NoSQL Bridge released very soon. Users feel more comfortable with applications that look more familiar to them. Google's material design system is one widely recognized standard that many users are already familiar with. In 2026R1, you can apply the material design styling to your entry fields using the material-design property. You can set it to 1 or 2, and this gives your application a modern, recognizable look without having to redesign it from scratch. This is what setting the material design property to 1 looks like. And this underline is what setting it to 2 looks like. Now, along with this property, we've included MD supporting text. This will customize the message returned when an error occurs, like this invalid email address. As an example, here's our modernization screen that does not have the material design applied. And here it is with the material design applied. Now notice that the labels on the screen in the background are no longer there on the front screen. Those had to be manually removed as a label from the program and added as an MD label property in the entry field. So the change requires some screen section modifications, but as you can see, the screen looks much more modern looking. By default, when you apply a look and feel, it doesn't affect Windows toolbars or ribbons. In previous versions, you had to use $get from LAF to force the controls to inherit the look and feel from other controls. But in 2026R1, you have two simpler approaches. The first one is a per window approach. If you add LAF-colors to your display window statement, the style will apply the LAF colors to that specific window. It'll override any individual color or background color properties. Now, if you want to apply the LAF to all of the windows, the toolbars, or the ribbons across your application, you can use the global approach. Set these configuration variables in your properties file. When you apply different look and feels, the colors of your controls may need to be adjusted to better match that LAF. For instance, this usually comes up when the user is in dark mode. Now you can reset the colors with two additions to $palette properties. WPalette map colors and WPalette reset colors. You would store those alternate color palettes in these new structures in isPalette.def. You can use the inquire verb with entry fields and combo box controls to get the trunc-value property. This tells you whether the content displayed on the screen has been truncated because it's too large for the control's width. Now, once you know that it's truncated, you have some options. You can expand the control. You could expand the window to show the full value. You can display it somewhere else on the screen, or you can show it as a tooltip that appears when the user hovers over the field, like this code example does with the hint. Use border width and border color properties in your radio buttons and checkboxes to underline the text. Here the value check 2 in its box are underlined with a thick red line. Our web browser control was based on Internet Explorer, but since Microsoft retired IE in favor of Edge, in 2026R1 we've updated our control to use the Edge browser engine, the SWT web browser. This keeps us current with what Microsoft supports. Now the new control is built on Eclipse's standard widget toolkit, the SWT, and it requires Java version 17 or later. If you prefer other options, the JFX web browser and the commercially available JX web browser are still available. You choose them with this variable. The IE and Edge landing page look different, and if you want the old IE look, set your web browser class variable like this with the use_IE equals true at the end. Here's what google.com looks like with the SWT web browser in default mode. And here's what it looks like in the IE mode. Another example is the variant website in default mode and here in IE mode. There are some new configuration variables in 2026R1. They are disabled placeholder color to set the color of disabled controls that have a placeholder. Secure num characters to set the number of asterisks to show in a secure entry field. You would do this so that the viewers don't know how long the password is. And secure char to replace the asterisks in that secure field with a different character. We're very careful at Variant to keep our third-party libraries up to date to prevent bugs and security problems. 2026 has replaced 2 of these libraries. The first is Apache POI. We've updated it, and this is the one that we use to export to Excel. The other one is that we've replaced the old iText library with OpenPDF. That's what we use to create and encrypt PDF files. The new library routine $prog in stack helps you avoid recursive program calls. It will tell you if a program has already been called. Apache Maven is one of the most used build automation and project management tools that's designed primarily for Java, but now you can use it with isCOBOL applications. The build instructions for Maven are saved in a pom.xml or a POM file, and this code on the screen is one of the sections that you need to add to your POM. There's a great sample in our build automation sample folder that you should look at. There's also a sample in that same folder for Apache Ant build tool. As more and more customers switch to isCOBOL, we're always adding compatibility with other COBOL dialects. In 2026R1, we've added the allocate statement, which is a new way to manage memory dynamically. You request storage as needed and you release it when you're done. The storage stays allocated until you explicitly free it or the program ends. And it's part of the latest ANSI 2023 standard. We've added some new variable declaration options. Several ways to declare variables to the existing usage national, which is used to store text in UTF-16 format. You can use usage display 1 if you need DBCS, which is double byte character set, instead of the UTF-16. You can use usage national with numeric and edited variables instead of the older method of pick_n. And you can use the E clause for an external floating point data. We've added a new function called UID4. This creates a unique identifier. It's a special code that's 36 characters long and guaranteed to be different every time you use it. Think of it like a serial number for your data. It's randomly generated, so it works great when you need a unique ID. And there's a new SQL statement called comment on that lets you add descriptive text to your database objects, like tables, columns, or views. This description gets stored in the system catalog for documentation and reference purposes. Ever tried to set a breakpoint in isCOBOL's debugger and it fails because your program window has the focus instead of the debugger? Well, we fixed that in 2026R1. Now you can set breakpoints anytime, even when the debugger doesn't have the focus. You do this, as usual, through the breakpoint menu set option or with Control B. Troubleshooting just got a little bit easier in Application Server. You can now create a thread or heap dump directly from the server's panel. You access them through the server menu or the toolbar buttons. Now you can control when users can undock in Web Client. In web applications, users often want to pop windows out of your app. Now you can let them do that selectively. There's a button on the window title bar that they can click to undock. And before it was all or nothing. Either every window could be undocked or none could. Now with the new IWC dockable style that you apply to your window, you control which windows are undockable on a window-by-window basis. To set it up in Web Client, go to the Administration panel and set the docking mode. You have three choices: All, if you want every window undockable; Marked, if only windows with the IWC dockable property should be undockable; or None, to block undocking entirely. Then decide what happens when a user undocks a window. Set the docking type to Tab if you want the undocked window to appear in a new browser tab, or Pop-up if you want it in a separate window. Here's an example of the pop-up style and of the tab style. When you have files named the same but in different folders, for instance, here's an invoice file separated by year in different folders, one for 24, 25, and 26, the database bridge by default creates separate tables for each folder, named Invoice with the directory name in front of it. How much of the directory name is configured by setting isCOBOL EasyDB dir level. For instance, if you set it to 1, it's going to pick up the year, and you'll have three tables: 2024 invoices, 2025 invoices, 2026 invoices. In this version, we've added a different way of implementing this for Oracle. It stores all of the data from multiple files in the same table, and it separates them by creating a new column called DTC, which means dir level to column. With this option, you can query all the records together, or you can filter by the DTC column to separate them by the year. Version 5 of C-Tree-RTG is here. If you're using version 3 files, they're fully compatible, no migration needed. They can be read and processed by version 5 as is. This version makes it easier to modify your files. You have three new options to use with CTUtil. Alter reads the field definitions from your extended file description, the ISS file, and it adds those fields to the end of your records. Augment adds space to the end of your file without changing the structure. And Make IDX lets you add new keys and fields and filler to your file structure. And if you want to modify the file without using CTUtil, you can just write the changes that you want into your select and FD statements, recompile, and run with C-Tree Auto Adjust set to true. And it will automatically adjust your C-Tree file. No custom data migration is needed. And that's a look at the new 2026R1. I hope you give it a try. If you have any questions, you can contact us at the information on the screen or at support@variant.com. Thank you.